Good afternoon. So this word was on my mind the other day. I don't really recall why I didn't do it. I think I was debating on, I wanted to do a short, and maybe it wasn't something that I can do, that I can make short enough. I like to go into the word. So then today someone sent me someone speaking on the love of money. So I said, okay, I guess it was meant for me to do it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at that scripture and share my screen with you. I'm recording on Zoom. She fancy. Is that the right one? Okay. So hope y'all good and everything. I'm kind of hungry, but I'm gonna try to stay focused. And Lord, I forgot my water. Okay. So First Timothy 6 and 10 is what we're gonna look at today. I do hope everyone is well. I want to remind you also, being a minister, that I am also available for discussions. You need someone to talk to, you just need an ear, etc., counsel, blah, blah. Um, Whenever you see my calendar posted, even though it says business or whatever, you can always click on there and schedule you an appointment and just put, I want to talk. And that's cool with me. I always got time for my people. You just have to schedule it to make sure that I'll be available for you because I like showing up. Okay, so for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Okay, so normally people would just say money is the root of all evil. Which of course lets you know that they never studied this. And it's like a repetition thing. You hear somebody else say it and you just say it, but you never, always put your own eyeballs on it and always study it. Okay. So for the love of money, this is First Timothy 6 and 10, it's the root of all evil. Of all the evils before mentioned and of others, not money itself. Ain't nothing wrong with the money. Money don't have a soul and money can't move unless you pick it up and move it as silver and gold, which are God's creatures and his gifts, and may be used to and answer many good purposes. But the love of it, and not any love of it, for there may be a lawful love of money, and that's a desire after it, so far as it is a requisite to the necessaries of life. It's necessary to have money, so you can't just hate money because, just take all your money and just, try to live without it, okay? You got to pay bills. Okay, and desire of it, so far as the requisite to the necessaries of life, to answer the calls of providence, the duties we owe to God and men. People don't like for the pastors to talk about money, but they got to keep the lights on too. Okay, to serve the interest of Christ and do good to fellow creatures and fellow Christians. Sometimes you might want to do a giveaway or provide them with food, shelter, clothing, the necessities of life. But it is an immoderate, insatiable desire after it, and an inordinate love of it, which is here meant, such as properly idolatry. Idolatry is serving another God, which there's only one God with the big G. The little g is the other stuff that you serve. And that's called idolatry. It's when a man loves it, not only besides, but above God. The money is above God, serves it as if it was God, and places his trust and confidence in it, independent of God. Just left God out of the situation. And his providence, such love of it, is the source and spring of all iniquity, as above, and was the sin of Judas and the root of all his iniquity. Judas wanted them 30 pieces of silver, so, hey, that's what had happened. So we know that people do have a love for money, and the iniquity that it's talking about is because you would do anything to get it. That's when you really have a love for money. You would do anything to get it, outside of the necessity, talking more about greed, while some coveted after, well, here it is, in a greedy, insatiable way. They have erred from the faith, the doctrine of faith, observing that the professors of it are generally poor. They have declined that path and not so much as heard the word. And if they have heard and embraced it, yet when persecution arises because of it, they drop their profession of it. They turn their back. Oh, or else their minds are so filled with worldly cares and deceitful riches that the word is choked. The word is choked out because their mind is, they got their mind on their money and their money on their mind, and that's their God. And it becomes unprofitable, and by, demons like they forsake it, having loved this present world. You know, they see that a lot of Christians are not wealthy and turn their back and, hey, this ain't for me. I need money. Some people have even gone to church saying, I hope I get lucky tonight when they go gambling or whatever. So they go to church because they want good luck. Or they'll pay tithes because, and that's a whole other issue, but they'll pay tithes because they want good luck. And when they see that things aren't working out the way they want to, but then they just drop that all together and say, hey, this ain't working out for me. The church thing ain't working. They find out that God is not a genie, that you can just show up at church and rub your hands together and pretend to love him and get all the money that you want. Okay, and pierce themselves through with many sorrows. Riches are therefore fitly compared to thorns. They're comparing the money to thorns, which give great trouble and uneasiness, both in getting and keeping them. They give money, but they can't keep it. And oftentimes the reflection upon the unlawful ways and means made use of to obtain them gives very pungent pain and distress because they have chosen wicked devices to obtain money. Okay. Now, this scripture, I remember the first time I heard this scripture, I was like, okay, because my pastor, he likes to say things that are shocking. So he stands up in church one day and says, money answereth all things. And it was so quiet in there. It was like the old folks say, you can hear a rat peeing on cotton. Okay. So on this left-hand side, this is Ecclesiastes 10:19. A feast is made for laughter, wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. And they got things in parentheses. It answers all things. It ain't gonna help you spiritually, but you're gonna need it for things. So in Ecclesiastes 10:19, on the right-hand side, a feast is made for laughter, or who make bread for laughter, not bakers who make bread for common use. I ain't talking about mere bakers and for all sorts of persons, sorrowful ones as others, but luxurious men, particularly such princes, it's big time, as are before described. They make bread, that is, a feast, as the phrase is used, not for mere refreshment, but to promote mirth and gaiety, to make people exceedingly happy, you loose and happy, to excessive degree, being attended with rioting and drunkenness, chambering and wantonness, with revelings and dancing, wild parties, wild, loud parties. Okay. Let me pause right here. I mentioned before how I know people have study Bibles, but it's basically just running references. Running references is not studying. This is studying what we're doing when we get into the background of the text. So right here where it gives a reference, Daniel 5:1. So when you click on it, Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before the 1,000. So that wasn't a study, that was just another scripture to show light on what a feast is or what they were talking about as a feast. But it's not the same as studying that particular scripture. Wine maketh merry, and they prepare wine, which is provided in plenty at feasts. This ain't no regular party, it's a big party, and which is sometimes put for a feast itself and called a banquet of wine. And see, it's talking about a banquet of wine. Then it gives you the scripture right here. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is the petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. So that's just running a reference. And I'll go back and show you something in just a minute. But money answereth all things, is the room of all things, and by it men obtain everything they want and wish for. It answers the request of all and supplies them with what they stand in need of. or can desire, particularly such expensive feasts and sumptuous entertainments are made by means of money. They couldn't do it without money. And in this luxurious way, the coffers of the princes are drained. They drained all their money throwing these big feasts, and they're obliged to raise new levies and impose new taxes upon the peoples, on the subjects, to the oppression of them. Or else the sense may be that princes should consider and not be so profuse in their manner of living, but be more frugal and careful to the public money and lay it up against the time of need. Save the money, be frugal. Don't be throwing these wild parties and wild feasts and everything, and then turn around and raise taxes because you need more money to take care of the people. Since it is that answers all things, it's a sinew, it's the glue that holds it together, it is the strength of war when that arises, and will procure men and arms. If you want men to go to war, okay, you got to pay them to secure and protect them from their enemies and obtain peace and safety for them and their subjects, which otherwise they cannot expect. Okay, so I'm done with that, but I want to go show you what I was talking about, how when you click on it, all it's doing is showing you the scripture. So I'm going to go to Daniel 5:1. This is important to study, just showing you an example. Daniel 5:1. Okay, so this is studying. See, Belshazzar the king made a great feast, So, and drank wine before the 1,000. So right here, this is the scripture that we went to for the reference. So when you actually type in the scripture to study it, that's when you get all of this. This is studying, when you go all into it and find out what's going on. So that's all I wanted to say right there, y'all. Let me see how to get up out of this Zoom. Let me stop sharing. All right. Everyone have a wonderful day.